Divine Revelation, 3 Miraculous Events Prophesied for the Days Following July 20th and Beyond. In the quaint village of Lower Wittle, where ancient oak trees whispered secrets of old, a stir of divine hope spread through the cobbled streets. Divine Revelation, 3 Miraculous Events Prophesied for the Days Following July 20th and Beyond, echoed through the hearts of its villagers. Faith-fueled whispers filled the air, mingling past the walls of the local chapel, where Margaret, a devoted widow, prayed diligently each night for her beloved community. Her heart, ablaze for St. Jude, radiated energy as she encouraged her neighbors, reveling in the shared warmth of spiritual anticipation. It was said that miraculous healings would unfold, leaving many breathless in wonder. Just the other day, little Charlie Thompson, a boy once ensnared in the grips of a terminal illness, was seen dancing down the lane, laughter spilling from his lips as if the heaviness of despair had been lifted. "A miracle! A true blessing from above!" the older villagers exclaimed, their faces shimmering with hope. Yet, amidst the profound revelations, whispers of skepticism lingered at the corners, clouds of doubt igniting tempers and driving wedges through the serene facade of the village. Yet faith unfurled like the petals of a blossoming flower. One evening, as golden rays kissed the horizon, a sudden gust swept through the chapel, extinguishing the candles, but then, within seconds, a heavenly glow enveloped the altar in luminous brilliance. Tears welled in Margaret's eyes, hearts warmed with the presence of the divine. "Oh, St. Jude, may our faith prevail!" she cried, clasping her hands, preparing for the night of prayers. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As July 20th crept closer, Mrs. Thompson's illness darkened the hearts of those who loved her. Desperate, Margaret sought counsel with Father Michael, whose gentle presence assured her. "Trust in the Lord, Margaret," he said. "He is listening." With new resolve, she gathered her friends, inviting them to the chapel for fervent prayer. Hope radiated within them, intertwining hearts, forging a united spirit against the encroach of despair. On the eve of that fateful day, Margaret witnessed the extraordinary as laughter erupted from families standing in disbelief. Miracles were blooming in their very midst. The village was swept up in stories of healing and divine intervention, yet Peter, her brilliant son, remained an island of skepticism, pitting science against faith. But with an inexplicable pull towards the light spilling from the chapel, he caught himself drawn inside one evening. What he saw unraveled a crack in his logical walls. An elderly villager, once bedridden and frail, stood before the congregation, arms raised, laughter echoing like church bells. The atmosphere shimmered with divine presence. The air felt charged with something sacred. Blinded by beauty, Peter felt his heart wrestle with burgeoning faith. What would the future hold? Would July 20th bring the answers for this village? Or would it continue to tease them, heartstrings pulled taut between doubt and hope? Only time would reveal the answers. The community, a tapestry woven with lives and beliefs, would soon stand at the precipice, a moment where miracles and uncertainty intertwined. In the heart of Lower Wittle, a divine spectacle awaited just around the corner. July 20th arrived, cloaked in the soft morning light as villagers gathered outside the chapel, anticipating the day's unfolding events. Margaret stood at the entrance, heart throbbing with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Today was not just a date on the calendar, it was a turning point, the moment when their fervent prayers would either be answered or left hanging in the air like the sweet scent of blooming flowers. As the congregation filled the pews, hushed whispers of faith mingled with the rustling of hymnals. Father Michael stepped into the pulpit, his presence radiating calm. He glanced around the room, his eyes catching Margaret's. In that moment, she felt an unspoken promise passing between them, hope and trust intertwined. "Beloved friends," he began, his voice steady, "today is a day of miracles. Let us open our hearts wide, for the Lord moves among us." The service commenced with soaring hymns, but the atmospheric tension was palpable. Margaret closed her eyes and surrendered to the music, letting the melody wrap around her like a warm embrace. Little Charlie sat in the front row, swinging his legs, pure joy evident in his expression. His vibrant energy was infectious, sparking smiles across the chapel. This was the heart of Lower Wittle, pulsating with belief. As the service unfolded, stories of miracles flowed freely, a woman's sight restored, another delivered from the chains of addiction. Each testimony built upon the last, pouring light into the shadows of doubt. Yet in the back, Peter stood awkwardly, arms crossed, the skeptic wrestling within him. Torn between what he knew of science and the overwhelming testimonies of faith surrounding him, he felt like a ship caught in a storm. Suddenly, the air thickened, a palpable energy crackling through the chapel. Candle flames danced wildly as a gust, gentle yet insistent, moved through, stirring the hairs on Margaret's arms. Father Michael paused mid-sentence, sensing the shift. The atmosphere within the chapel transformed, charged with an unexplainable presence. "Dear Lord, we stand before you, humble and expectant," the priest called, his voice resonating with authority and warmth. "Reveal your wonders among us today." And then, the unrivaled moment arrived. A beam of radiant light descended, illuminating Charlie. He gasped, eyes wide, fingers pointing toward the heavens as if cradling something divine. A soft gasp swept through the congregation before a hush fell. Everyone was mesmerized, entranced by the sight. "Jesus, Jesus!" Charlie called, voice ringing with clarity and vibrancy. "Look! He is here! I can see him!" Gasps turned to shouts of joy as tears streamed down faces, hope erupting like blooming peonies in spring. Margaret felt a warmth envelop her, aching love and gratitude stirring deep within her soul. Skepticism began to chip away at Peter's heart. He could no longer deny the palpable vibrancy vibrating in the air. Was it possible? Could it all be real? But before he could unpack those thoughts, the lights flickered, and with them, shadows began to dance. An elderly woman in the back, the very one who had testified just weeks before, stood up, supported by two of her daughters. "I couldn't walk," she started, voice quivering with awe. "But look! I am standing before you." The air quaked with collective gasps accompanied by rising waves of praise. And there it was, the undeniable presence of something holy, reverberating through their hearts. Margaret's prayers had transcended into reality, but a question lingered in the sacred silence. With faith ignited, what miracles awaited them next? The light began to deepen, hinting at something more extraordinary, as villagers took cautious steps toward the altar. What divine revelation would they encounter next, and how would they embrace this newfound faith? As their hearts and spirits stirred, uncertainty transformed into soaring anticipation. What lay ahead remained cloaked in divine mystery. With the excitement still crackling in the air, Margaret's heart raced as she witnessed the unfolding moments. The light, now a vivid beacon, flickered softly as if inviting each soul to draw nearer. She felt the tug of the Spirit encouraging her to step forward, to move closer to the altar where the miracles were manifesting. "Come, everyone! Gather here!" Father Michael's voice boomed, laced with urgency and tenderness. The congregation began to rise, their spirits buoyed and eager. Peter hesitated one last time, caught in the undertow of doubt and intrigue. He searched the faces around him, and saw not fear, but resolve and excitement. As if lifted by an unseen force, he took a step forward. Bodies brushed against one another, hearts beating in rhythm with fervent hope. Hands reached out, clasping each other as a tapestry of faith was woven together. Margaret squeezed Charlie's hand, feeling small but mighty under the weight of an incredible moment. Then, Charlie's voice soared above the murmur. "Can we tell more stories of miracles?" His innocent joy sparked laughter, and Father Michael smiled warmly. "Yes, my dear one! Let us share what the Lord has done." A woman in a floral dress stood up, tears of joy glistening on her cheeks. "I prayed for my daughter to find her way back home," she began, her voice trembling. "And last night she called. Right as I was praying, she came knocking at our door." Joy erupted, echoing through the wooden beams of the chapel, as the story ignited hope in others. More testimonials followed, with each heart sharing strumming the chords of faith. Someone once tormented by addiction spoke of being set free in a moment of clarity, while a young couple recounted the birth of their long-awaited child, conceived after many years of longing. With every word, the air thickened with expectancy. Peter listened, his previously skeptical heart now swaying like a young sapling bending toward the light. He recalled the days spent cemented in logic, but a small voice inside urged him to open up, to be vulnerable, and receive the divine insight that danced around him. Miracles were indeed happening. Perhaps the unexplainable was a facet of faith he had dismissed. Meanwhile, as Margaret soaked in the shared stories, she felt another ripple of energy pulse through the air, stronger now. It was as though the divine presence lingered, ready to reveal even more. Prepare yourselves, dear friends, for the Lord is doing a new thing among us. Father Michael proclaimed, his arms raised as if embracing the heavens. Today marks not just one miracle, but the beginning of a series of blessings pouring down upon us. Let us chart this course and watch with expectant hearts. The villagers murmured, their eyes wide with wonder. Would there be more? What could they anticipate in the days ahead? Just then, Father Michael turned to the altar, a look of profound purpose crossing his face. As the Spirit guides us, we will reveal to you 3 monumental miracles that await. Are you willing to embrace what is yet to come? Yes, echoed the voices of the congregation, a chorus of unity and trust blooming in the chapel. But a shadow flickered in Peter's soul, a hesitation, a question. What if this faith is a fleeting moment? What if tomorrow we wake, and the light has dimmed? The light around them shimmered again, bright and insistent, as if answering his doubt. Faith requires trust, whispered a small, gentle thought inside him. How would he choose to see what surrounded him? The air held its breath as Margaret looked toward the altar, sensing that an incredible revelation was about to unfold. What 3 profound miracles lay in wait for the villagers of Lower Wittle? And could Peter's heart be truly transformed? The sense of anticipation hung like a glimmering promise in the air, beckoning them deeper into the unknown. The anticipation in the chapel thickened like a sweet, fragrant incense, wrapping around each person present. Father Michael, radiant with fervor and grace, placed his hands on the altar, his voice softening. Let us wait in stillness, dear friends. Sometimes, the Lord chooses to speak in the quiet. Margaret felt a wave of peace wash over her as a hush settled among them. It was a moment suspended in time, where doubts were cast aside. She closed her eyes, inhaling deeply, the aroma of old wood and worship lingering around her. It was as if the very walls of the chapel held their breath alongside her. Then, a gentle voice broke through the stillness. Father Michael spoke again, his tone unwavering. The first miracle awaits, and it speaks of healing. Healing that will bridge gaps and mend broken hearts. There was an audible gasp in the room. A woman to Margaret's left murmured, healing, as the word hung in the air like a bell that had just been struck. Tonight, as we gather, Father Michael continued, a young man named Thomas is preparing to come here. Lost in the shadows of despair and struggling with the wounds of loneliness, he seeks courage to step into the light. Margaret glanced at Peter, whose brow furrowed in thought. Is there anyone here, Father Michael asked, his gaze sweeping through the congregation, who has walked that path? Who has felt the weight of loneliness? Hands began to rise, one after another, until the room was a tapestry of understanding and shared pain. Margaret felt her heart swell. Here was a moment of connection that could bring hope, the joining of stories, the merging of lives. We will pray together, Father Michael urged, and the congregation responded, yes, let it be. As they began to pray, a warmth spread through the room, igniting a flicker of hope in Peter's heart. His hands grasped tight onto the pew in front of him. He could feel something shifting, something divine stirring within. Father Michael, sensing the atmosphere swell with energy, raised his voice. The second miracle speaks of joy, a joy that will bring laughter where there has been sorrow. We must be ready to embrace what is often found hidden in unexpected places. It is the joy of renewed relationships, of friendships born anew. Charlie jumped up, eyes alight. "Can we have a party?" he exclaimed, blissfully unaware of the profound depths of his request. Laughter rippled through the crowd, softening anxious hearts. "Yes," Father Michael agreed, a twinkle in his eyes. "Indeed, a celebration will be had. Joy shared multiplies. We will rejoice together, as we watch the seeds of friendship bloom." The thought of joy displacing sorrow ignited hope anew in Margaret's spirit. She noticed Peter nodding slightly, as if the currents of faith had begun to stir his heart. And finally Father Michael proclaimed, his voice rising in strength, "The third miracle speaks of provision. There will be an outpouring of resources spiritual, emotional, and even material for those in desperate need. A day coming soon where every need will be met." The congregation erupted in murmurs of awe and excitement. Some exchanged looks, their hearts swelling with anticipation. Margaret felt a surge of gratitude welling up inside. This was a promise renewed, a community united in purpose and possibility. But Peter's face darkened once more, flickers of concern shadowing his features. And what if these moments pass us by? What if we don't recognize them when they arrive? In that moment, Margaret reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly while quietly whispering, "We must stay expectant. We must look for the signs in our daily lives." As Father Michael called them to prepare their hearts for these impending miracles, a light not only illuminated the altar but also sparked like fireworks in the minds of the faithful. What shifts were about to unfold in Lower Wittle? Would Peter uncover the newfound strength of faith surrounding him? As the congregation radiated with glowing anticipation, the air crackled once more with divine promise for tomorrow. In the depths of Margaret's heart, a question lingered: could faith truly lead to the miraculous, and what role would she play in this unfolding narrative of grace? The air in the chapel was electric, alive with the beating hearts of the faithful, each pulse resonating with expectation. Father Michael's eyes shone with fervor as he invited them to hold on to hope. "Remember, dear friends, it is through faith that we see," he said, his voice steady. "As we stand on the precipice of these miracles, let us open our hearts and minds." Margaret turned to Peter, and she could see the flicker of hope battling against doubt in his gaze. "What do you think will happen?" she asked softly. He took a moment, his brow still knitted, but the tension around his eyes began to soften. "I don't know, Margaret," he replied, the impact of community lifting the burden somewhat. "But I feel something different in the air tonight." A murmur rose from the congregation, a chorus woven from shared fears and mutual aspirations. Father Michael paused, inviting them into a deeper reflection. If we are to witness these miracles, we must first believe. To believe is an act of surrender, a choice to trust even when the path seems shadowed. Margaret closed her eyes again, letting the sound of their voices wash over her like soothing water. Each prayer felt like a ripple, widening and reaching those nearby. She felt drawn into the collective longing for healing, joy, and provision, an invitation to be part of something greater than herself. In that sacred stillness she thought of Tom, the young man wandering through the evening, searching for the chapel's warm embrace. And suddenly she felt compelled to speak. "Can we pray for him now?" she called, her voice rising above the gentle hum. Father Michael nodded, encouraging her with his smile. "Yes, let us raise up Thomas before God, and may he feel the pull of our prayers guiding him home." Everyone bent their heads in reverence, their prayers threading together in the gentle ambience of the chapel. Margaret's heart ached for Tom, for those like him who struggled in the shadows. "Lord, let him feel your love tonight. Provide him courage to step out of the dark," she whispered fervently. In that moment of heartfelt supplication, light seemed to shift and swell in the room, a golden hue enveloping the congregation, weaving through their united spirit like a divine tapestry. It was as if every whisper given forth fueled the flame of hope, igniting something profound and complete. As the prayers ebbed, there was a subtle change in the atmosphere and unmistakable depth of peace. Father Michael stood, his voice ringing with conviction. "Beloved, miracles await us. In our faith, we will be the conduits of healing for Thomas and countless others. In our joy, we will invite others into the light. And by sharing resources, we will become vessels of provision." Cheers erupted in the chapel, hearts stirred and eyes shining. Margaret inhaled deeply, feeling the warmth of community surrounding her. Peter squeezed her hand. "Do you feel that?" he whispered, awestruck. "Yes," she replied, emotional tears glistening in her eyes. "It's hope. It's possibility, it's everything." But just as Margaret began to believe fully in the promise of miracles, a distant sound caught her attention, the echo of footsteps approaching. Was it Tom? Would he step through the door seeking the very hope they had been igniting? Father Michael's gaze turned toward the door, his expression shifting to one of expectation. "Friends, let us be ready." The young man arrives, his voice rang out in excitement, and the congregation leaned forward, anticipation palpable in the air. With the chapel door slowly creaking open, the light from outside spilled in, chasing away shadows. What would they see when the figure crossed the threshold? Could it be Thomas, ready to receive what they had prepared for him? Every heart raced, every breath held. All awaited the next revelation, an encounter that could change everything. As the chapel door opened wider, it revealed a silhouette framed by the soft glow of twilight. The air was filled with a mix of hope and trepidation, each person holding their breath, their eyes glued to the entrance. Margaret's heart pounded in harmony with the congregation, each beat a prayer ascending to the heavens. Then, a young man stepped inside. It was Tom, his face weary but lit with curiosity. The moment he crossed the threshold, something changed in the room. Light spilled around him like an embrace, and the whispers of encouragement surged forward. "Welcome!" called Father Michael, his voice inviting and warm. "You are home." Tom hesitated, seeing the faces before him. He could feel the weight of their expectations, the fervor of their prayers wrapping around him. His brow furrowed as he searched for understanding in their eyes. "I didn't know if I should come," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Margaret stepped forward, her heart brimming with compassion. "We prayed for you, Tom. We were hoping you would find your way here." Tears pooled in her eyes, not from anguish, but from the joy of seeing him turn toward hope. A murmur traveled through the crowd, a wave of encouragement and love washing over Tom. Father Michael beckoned him closer, a smile radiating peace. "You are not alone anymore, brother. You are surrounded by love. Tell us what burdens your heart." Tom shifted nervously. "I have lost my way. I've made choices that led me down paths I regret. I came here looking for something, and I don't even know what that is." A collective gasp echoed through the chapel, but it was not one of judgment. It was a sound of understanding, for everyone present had danced with shadows of their own. Father Michael nodded. "You've taken the first step by walking through that door. Here you can lay down your burdens." With that, a spirit of healing fell upon the room. The atmosphere vibrated with the energy of shared experience and forgiving grace. Lives intertwined, everyone had a story fraught with trials and triumphs. "Let us pray together for Tom," Margaret suggested, her voice strong and filled with warmth, radiating faith. "Let us surround him with the love we've been weaving." The congregation quickly joined, forming a circle of support around the young man. Hands reached out warm, reassuring, and eyes were closed in a moment of united prayer. As they interceded, the chapel seemed to swell with the spectral light of divine presence. "Lord, we ask for the power of your love to pour into Tom's heart. Heal his wounds, restore his spirit. Lead him to the light, guide him home," Father Michael intoned. With every word, a shift occurred. Tom felt the heaviness in his chest begin to lift, the fear that had chained him started to dissolve. An undeniable warmth enveloped him, a feeling of acceptance so profound it made him breathe deep and lean into it. Tears streamed down his face, a release of the burdens he had carried for too long. In that moment, the weight of the world fell from his shoulders, illuminating the path once blurred by shame. After the prayer had ended, silence lingered as if the heavens themselves were contemplating the grace shared. Margaret stepped closer to Tom, eyes shining. "See? It's possible to begin anew, to believe again." His response was a soft smile, a glimpse of hope waiting to blossom anew. The congregation erupted in soft applause, a testament to the power of community and faith intertwining in the face of despair. But just as the joy washed over Tom, Father Michael raised a hand, drawing attention once more. Friends, remember, every miracle unfolds with intention. For those who seek it, there is more ahead. Each of us is called to carry light into the darkness. A hushed tension broke the room as he continued, miracles are not just fleeting moments. They are the beginning of transformation in our lives and faith. And I believe we are on the verge of witnessing 3 profound events in the days to come. The excitement in the room swelled again, pulsing with spiritual energy. What miracles awaited them? What revelations could unfold in their midst? The anticipation hung thick as they collectively awaited the clarity to come. What would these events mean for them, and for Tom? Would this spark ignite the divine intercession they all yearned for? As the murmurs of curiosity filled the chapel, Tom found himself standing at the center of a sacred expectation. The light that had embraced him earlier now flickered like a candle, casting gentle shadows against the stone walls. Each flicker seemed to whisper promises of what was to come. Let us not lose sight of the moment, Father Michael said, his voice calm yet filled with urgency. His eyes danced with the light of faith. In every part of our journey, there exists a divine purpose. Each of us has a role in unfolding his plan. Tom felt a tug at his heart, a sense of belonging that had eluded him for so long. The weariness that once clouded his soul began to lift, replaced by fragile threads of hope. He scanned the faces around him. Beyond the warm smiles, he saw stories embedded in their eyes, stories of struggle, renewal, and unwavering faith. Father, what do you mean by 3 events? Tom finally asked, his voice steadier than before. The room hushed, all eyes turning once more toward Father Michael, anticipation coiling tightly like a spring ready to burst. Ah, young brother, the future is often veiled in mystery, he replied, his tone playful yet profound. But sometimes, God grants us glimpses. These events might lead us to deeper truths, opportunities for healing that could reshape our lives and our community. Margaret leaned closer to Tom, her enthusiasm glowing bright. Each of us has the ability to foster these miracles, to be part of something larger than ourselves. Imagine the ripples of change we can create together. The warmth of her words ignited something inside him, a spark he longed to nurture. But a flicker of doubt crept in, pulling him back momentarily. But how can I be part of miracles when I have so much to overcome? What if I am not enough? Father Michael stepped forward, his expression softening with compassion. Tom, it isn't about what you lack. It's about what God can do through you. Remember, even the smallest seed is capable of growing into a mighty tree. Walk in humility and faith, and you will see. With those words, Tom felt an anchoring presence in his spirit, grounded yet liberated. He realized that perhaps he was no longer just an observer of miracles, but a vessel of potential. Let us not forget the power of testimony, Father Michael added, as if sensing the transformation taking root within Tom. Sharing the stories of our faith can light up paths for others who walk in darkness. Who among you has a story that could inspire hope? A hushed whisper swept through the room, eyes shifting from one disciple to the next. One by one, individuals began to share snippets of their journeys, of setbacks transformed into breakthroughs, of despair reshaped by perseverance. Each voice wove a tapestry of resilience that encircled Tom, filling the air with those divine echoes. As stories unfurled, tears flowed freely. Some were tears of joy, others of bittersweet reflection, but all bore witness to the power of love and unconditional grace. Tom absorbed every word, allowing the collective strength to enrich his spirit further. Remember, we are not called to do life alone, Margaret reminded him, a glimmer of understanding shining in her eyes. The more we embrace our connectedness, the brighter our light shines. Together, we can prepare for the miracles ahead. As the congregation lifted their voices to sing a hymn of praise, Tom felt a swell of emotion rise within him. The love that surrounded him acted like a warm tide, drawing him further out into the open sea of faith. But just then, Father Michael faced them, his expression grave yet resolute. As we rejoice in hope, we must also prepare our hearts. The journey ahead may call upon us in unexpected ways. There will be trials alongside the joys. We cannot shy away from the spiritual battles we must face. The music faded into a quiet hum, and the air turned palpable with divine tension, wrapping around them like a cloak. What trials awaited them? What challenges would test their newly kindled faith? How would Tom rise to become part of the miracles yet to be unveiled? The questions loomed heavy yet filled with promise, a divine challenge awaiting its answer. Each heartbeat echoed the urgent pull of destiny. As silence settled over the chapel, Tom's heart began to race. Father Michael's words hung in the air like a sacred fog, wrapping them all in a shroud of anticipation. With every breath he took, he felt the pulse of something greater knocking at the door of his spirit. 3 events, Tom whispered to himself. What could they be? His mind swirled with possibilities. He had always longed for a sign, something loud and clear, a compass for his wandering soul. Yet here he was, surrounded by a community that believed collectively in power beyond their comprehension. Father Michael, sensing the weight of their questioning spirits, continued with gentle authority. What if I told you that the first event is already upon us? A chance to engage in an act of service, an act that could change someone's life forever. The murmurs swept through the chapel, eyes widening. Tom leaned in, intrigued. Service? It seemed simple enough, yet profound in its implications. He remembered Margaret's words about the ripples of change, and suddenly he felt a knot tightening in his stomach, a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The second event will test us, Father Michael continued, lifting his gaze to meet theirs. A moment that requires courage and trust. A trial where faith alone may guide our actions. Are you prepared to face it? A collective breath escaped the congregation, the power of his words igniting warrior spirits. Tom felt his unease thrum against the sweet chords of faith anchoring him. Could he step into the unknown? Within him, something burned, a blend of fear and the yearning to rise. And finally, the third event, Father Michael paused for a heartbeat, fueling the tension as shadows danced across the walls. It shall usher in a season of miracles, a time when healing will flow like a river, binding us together in ways we cannot yet imagine. Tom's mind raced, the vision of healing weaving through his thoughts. There had been so many burdens carried individually, so much pain held in secret. What if they could all find healing together? A warmth filled the chapel, a glimmer of hope sparking in the eyes of the believers. But remember, the priest said, his tone shifting to one of earnest caution, the path will not be easy. Trials can shake our faith. They can magnify our insecurities and make us question our worth. It is a time to dig deep and hold tight to what we know to be true. Tom felt the rising fissures of fear within himself but nodded resolutely. He had spent too long wrestling with doubt. Perhaps this gathering was the stirring of the spirit he had been yearning for. Across from him, Margaret smiled reassuringly, and he could see unspoken encouragement in her eyes. Let us unite, Father Michael urged. For in our unity against the trials, we will grow stronger. Let your light shine brightly, so the world can see no one among us is alone. As Father Michael's voice dwindled, the chapel began to resonate with murmurs of agreement. Each participant was declaring their readiness, stepping out of their own shadows into a shared journey of faith. Tom felt that sacred tug in his heart again, this time accompanied by a strengthened resolve. Yet amid the rising spirit, questions loomed large. Would he truly find the strength to embrace the trials, to share in the unity required for miracles? The chapel now buzzed with purpose, anticipation crackling in the air. They stood on the precipice of something divine, a call to action awaiting their embrace. What challenges would test their faith? How would they navigate the moments that could either bind them or break them apart? As Tom's thoughts intertwined with the whispers floating in the air, he couldn't help but wonder, was he truly ready for what lay ahead? Would the coming days unveil the wonders God had promised? The question lingered, hanging in the air as the light flickered and dimmed, leaving them with an inviting mystery of divine potential. Tom's heartbeat echoed in the silence that followed Father Michael's closing remarks. As the last flickers of candlelight danced, a palpable energy filled the chapel, oscillating between anxiousness and hope. He turned to Margaret, her eyes bright with a kind of clarity he hadn't seen before. "What do you think it will be like?" Tom asked, seeking her wisdom, almost desperate for reassurance. Margaret smiled. It'll be whatever we make it. The first step is to open our hearts and be ready to serve. Her voice, calm and soothing, wrapped around him like a warm embrace. Yet uncertainty gnawed at him. What if offering service meant exposing parts of himself he preferred to keep hidden? As if sensing his internal struggle, Margaret added, "Remember, it's not about what we have to give but the willingness to share our hearts with others. God will provide what we lack." The words resonated deep within him. Encouraged, Tom surveyed the room. The congregation began to disperse, their faces radiant with purpose. Spirits intertwined in a web of encouragement, hands clasped together in prayer, voices lifting in quiet hymns. It was a sacred sight, one that tugged at his soul. Suddenly, Father Michael swept back into focus, a glimmer of urgency renewed in his gaze. "Tonight, I want us to take a moment together, to think about how we can serve someone in our community. Let us take this time for prayer, for reflection." As they bowed their heads, Tom felt the weight of their intention pressing down and rising at the same time, like a heavy curtain being lifted to let the sunlight through. He closed his eyes, envisioning the possibilities. Who could he help? A neighbor struggling, the elderly couple down the road, perhaps even an outreach program at the church? Father Michael spoke softly, guiding them. "Ask yourself who needs you. Who can you simply be present for?" Tears prickled at the edges of Tom's eyes as the names sprang forth in his mind, each one accompanied by a surge of compassion. While he prayed, he felt a flicker of something divine inside him, a stirring that urged him forward. After a moment, Father Michael's voice rose gently. "Next week's gathering will focus on how we can take action. I encourage you to reach out. Share your ideas, your struggles." The words ignited an inner fire within Tom. The flicker began to blaze. Stepping into vulnerability was daunting, but the thought of healing others, sharing burdens, and illuminating lives filled him with unexpected joy. As the gathering concluded, Tom lingered, watching others exchange smiles and encouragement. It was a beautiful tapestry of connection, threads of hope and service woven together. He turned to see Margaret standing close, her expression earnest. "Are you really ready for what is coming?" she asked, a hint of concern in her voice. "I want to be," he replied earnestly. "I'm afraid, but I also feel a pull, a desire to step forward." "Good. That's the Spirit moving you. Remember, faith is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it," she reminded him, squeezing his hand as if sealing their shared commitment. As he left the chapel, the vibrant glow of streetlights outside contrasted sharply with the darkness beyond. He felt lighter somehow, as if stepping out of shadows he had carried for too long. Still, as he navigated home, the question lingered, echoing in his heart: what would these coming days reveal? Was he truly ready to embrace the miraculous changes promised on the horizon? Little did he know that soon, they would be tested in ways he hadn't imagined. The true adventure was just beginning. The sun rose over Lower Wittle, casting a golden glow that kissed the cobblestones with warmth. It was a new day, a day pregnant with potential. As Margaret made her way to the chapel, anticipation coursed through her veins like a river, bubbling over with excitement. Today, they would take the first steps toward the miracles prophesied. As she entered the chapel, she was met by the familiar faces of her beloved community. Each person radiated a sense of hope mingled with the scent of anticipation that hung in the air like incense. Father Michael stood at the front, a beacon of light in his crisp robe, eyes sparkling with a divine mission. "Friends," he called, his voice vibrant and melodic. "Today is the day we step into our calling." A choir of amens washed over him, and Margaret felt her spirit lift. She looked for Tom, waiting to catch a glimpse of him awash in the energy swirling around them. Amidst the throng, he appeared shy yet determined, a man transformed by faith and community, ready to embrace his role in the unfolding miracles. Father Michael continued, "Today we will begin our acts of service. We will each choose a neighbor or friend to encourage. Let us spread love and kindness, for that is the heart of healing." His words hung like a prayer in the air, filling hearts with fire. Margaret turned to Tom. "Are you ready?" she asked, her heart overflowing with compassion. The warmth of togetherness enveloped them. A bit nervous, but yes, Tom replied, his voice steady. I want to be part of something bigger. With those words, the shift began. The congregation broke into small groups, buzzing with ideas, each person brimming with suggestions. They shared moments of vulnerability, stories of despair that had become testimonies of triumph. Laughter erupted as they brainstormed, each act of kindness sparking fresh embers of faith within them. At one point, Charlie stood on a chair and declared, "Let us have a picnic for the elderly next week." Laughter mingled with applause as adults smiled, caught up in the charm of his pure enthusiasm. The idea took root, and soon plans were hashed out amidst the melodies of shared laughter. As the sun warmed their backs, Peter, who had been hesitant and skeptical, found himself smiling at the excitement around him. He joined a group led by Father Michael, a dawning clarity glimmering in his eyes. "Let us work together to create a community garden," he suggested, "a place where everyone can come together and grow both food and friendship." Murmurs of agreement and eagerness rippled through the group. Margaret watched warmly as Tom began to lend his hands to the tasks around them. He moved among neighbors, offering support, listening intently. With each conversation, he became more animated, his confidence blossoming like a flower breaking through the winter frost. Then, unexpectedly, there came a knock on the chapel door. As it opened, several villagers turned, surprised to see a newcomer, a man worn and weary yet radiating a quiet dignity. He stepped inside nervously, and all eyes fell on him. But rather than retreating, he took a deep breath, exuding a sense of surrender. "Hello, my name is Samuel," he said, as everyone absorbed the weight of his words. "I've heard about the community here and wanted to find a place to belong to heal." Tom felt a tug in his heart, a stirring deep within that beckoned him forward. "You're in the right place, Samuel," he said, stepping toward the newcomer with arms wide open. "Welcome home." As embrace met embrace and Samuel found himself surrounded by an ocean of understanding, Margaret saw how each act of kindness rippled through their community, touching lives and mending hearts. This was it. It was happening, the miracles unfolding before her very eyes. With the day winding down, the group shared stories of connection and healing. Each flicker of laughter, every tear of joy brought them closer together, binding them in a tapestry of hope. Tom's laughter rang out, mingling with the joyous echoes, as he realized this is what he had longed for: a family, a sense of purpose, and a faith that anchored him in the storm. Father Michael gathered them once more, and in that moment, Margaret felt divine presence wrapped around them, enveloping every soul. "What we witnessed today was only the beginning," he proclaimed, radiating warmth. "We are stepping into our divine purpose, becoming vessels of love in this world." As the congregation burst into applause, the air shimmered with hearts on fire. Tom stood with a newfound boldness, feeling not only the love of his community but the miraculous embrace of God. "Let us pray for our next steps," Father Michael led, voices raised in unison, hearts intertwined in sacred unity. The atmosphere thickened with peace as they prayed earnestly. It was heartfelt, collective. Amidst the devotion, Margaret could envision Samuel, Peter, Tom, and every member of their community, transforming into branches of a great tree, each one nourished by faith, reaching toward the light. As the prayer concluded, a gentle calm washed over them. Margaret looked around her and realized the world outside still needed them. "Will you join me?" she whispered to Tom, confidence surging. "Of course," he replied, a smile breaking across his face. "We've only just begun." In that moment, they stepped out of the chapel, no longer held back by doubt or fear. Rather, they walked into the world, transformative and deeply aware, ready to be vessels of healing, joy, and provision, the miraculous events that would echo through Lower Wittle and beyond. They stepped into their calling, vibrant and electric. Dear friends, if you've felt inspired by this story, now is the time to act. Don't miss a single moment of divine revelation. Subscribe immediately to our channel for more miraculous faith stories that will uplift your spirit. Help us spread the light. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and share this impactful journey with the world. We want to hear your reactions and testimonies about this ending, so comment below to let your voice be heard. And remember, this is your moment. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this manifestation of faith and hope. Don't wait even one more second to be part of this divine mission, because only true servants of God understand the importance of supporting our community through these actions.